Welcome to Perimenopausal Athletes and Beyond. We're doing a whole series of interviews, and I am speaking today with Silken Laumann. Thank you so much for being here, Silken, and for joining all of us and sharing a bit of yourself in these 30 minutes that we have with you.
So thank you. I'm glad to be here and talking, with all the menopausal and perimenopausal women out there. There'd be a lot of energy.
There is a lot of energy. And sometimes, like we're on the we don't really always know where we are. So yeah, that's perfect. So just to give people a little bit of an idea of who you are, but I do want you to, I'll open it up and say, is there anything else? I just first want to say you are a mom of two amazing kids. You're married to Pat. William and Kate are your kids' names. You're also an Olympian, a silver medalist. You are a bronze medalist. You are a gold medalist at the Pan American Games, bronze medal at the Los Angeles Olympics. So decorated athlete. And where your story really inspired so many was when is in 1992, when 10 weeks before the Olympic Games, a boat collided into yours and created, I don't even know what the words are. What do we say? Like just, yeah, you crashed.
Yeah, it crashed. It devastated my leg. And, I don't think at that point anybody thought I would get to the Olympics.
No, I don't think anybody thought at that moment. So we're going to go back there as well. But I also wanted to say the other thing, what you're doing right now is that you founded an organization called Unsinkable. And right on the first thing that you see when you go to the Unsinkable page is we're in this together, we are unsinkable. And I just love it because here we are and we're brought in right into who you are and this connection that you are creating among all the stories. And that's what Unsinkable is about, a story that you have personally and that you've now given, and you are creating the stories among so many others. So thank you for that. And the organization is really committed to amplifying diverse voices to drive change in the way that people manage their well-being. Mm-hmm. And isn't this just so perfect? Right? It's so perfect because here we are speaking to women in perimenopause. We're speaking to athletes, of which you are a phenomenal one, and to those women beyond that. And how do we inspire? How do we be the best athletes we can be? How do we keep going? How do we stay in health? So let's get right into it and get into your story. I have a quote from your book here, and it says, "I could not live fully in the present until I had taken a clear-eyed journey into my past." So what I want to do is I want just, we only have 30 minutes. So I'm like, oh, we have so much to say. Can you take us back just to that moment to just give us where we're going to start? Because what I really want to talk about is where we're going to go and how you relate to your body now. But what about that moment? Can you just share that moment and then then we'll take us beyond that?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, in a nutshell, that moment was really the moment that I decided to heal my past and to really look at the story of how I became the person I am today. So a lot of time to understand who you are today, you really do have to understand, what happened to you, how you responded, how that shaped you, and to do it clear-eyed. So to do it without all the drama and all the maybe misconceptions and stories that we tell ourselves. I did it with a therapist. I did it with that sort of objective human beside me. And I think that the gift that process gave me, and it was a tough process and it was a much longer process than I ever imagined, was freedom. Freedom to make decisions in my life, to be who I was fully, and not be ruled subconsciously, unconsciously sometimes, with the tracks of the past, the negative voices, the limiting thoughts, the moments and sometimes, hours of I'm not good enough. And I regain that freedom. And when I make decisions today in my life, I make them because I want to do it, not because I should, or I have some, feeling that I have to be successful for somebody else, or I have to look a certain way for somebody else, or have to perform in a way, that to prove or to show that that's really, I wouldn't say it's gone, because I think it's a journey, and we all have layers of it, but I've been released from it.
That's phenomenal. So when you say like the freedom and release from it, that's because you've done all this work, and you have continued to explore the story. And I know that you mentioned that you mentioned on your website that you are delving back into that book. And how is into your book Unsinkable? So that is Unsinkable is the full story that Silken shares with us, and it's very she gives us all of her and her from her childhood all the way through, talking about mental illness. She talks about depression, and I highly recommend that you pick up a copy and read it, because it'll inspire you and think, wow, if Silken, like, there's this power of the human spirit. But you're reading it again, and so you just like, this is where you are now. And how do you relate that to your body? Like, here I'm thinking you were an elite athlete and you knew your body so unbelievably well, like, and you believed in your body. I'm actually just going to read a quote, if I'm allowed, here in your book. It said,
Yeah.
I felt supported by a positive energy. Some sort of loving universal power surrounded me, and I was held. My whole being had become very still, and below that stillness was this knowingness, this conviction that I would heal. I reminded myself over and over again, I was going to be okay. Tell us your age, if at this point of when
At
you're
that point I was 27.
like, that's phenomenal as a 27-year-old, and that you had this sense of yourself, because everybody.
I think I had a sense of myself, and I had a sense of that kind of universal force that connects us all, and spirit, God, whatever you want to call it. And it's always been very present in my life. And I think I feel that power and that strength when I am finally quiet, in my thoughts, or away from my thoughts, I should say, because our thoughts are just always spinning and churning and creating drama. But like, when we actually are still and just sit with what's beneath that, for me, it's always been this incredibly peaceful, powerful force telling me and really letting me know on a cellular level that it's going to be okay. Like, whatever I'm going through, whatever, and that's just one version. Like, that was my version, as an accident. I've had many other versions since then, and we all have.
Yeah. So now you talked about having freedom. So let's talk about you as athlete now, and that knowingness at that young age, what I would say a young age, and then now that relationship with your body, that freedom that you have with your body is just deepened. And now, you've gone through perimenopause. What is it like to be an athlete, knowing those things, having it grounded even more for you? And how do you allow yourself to be athlete?
Yeah, well, so that's really interesting question, Tennille, because I think, having been an Olympic athlete, so on the one hand, part of my identity was for so long connected to Silken Laumann athlete, and still is today. People still see me as, oh yeah, you were a 4-time Olympian. But then there's the other part of me that, of course, is living life and doing athletics in a very different way, and doesn't see herself as an athlete anymore, because, like, my comparison is so ridiculously out of whack. And so I think, as as an aging woman who is embracing aging, and really constantly looking for what is what is the grace in this? What are the blessings that come with this stage of life that very much, I'm 56 years old. It's very much a stage of life that I've entered, and there's no, there's no stopping it. It just keeps going, right? So like, let's embrace it. I have struggled a lot, I would say, with that idea of, if like, how can I still define myself as an athlete when I'm not doing and looking and feeling like I did when I was an Olympic athlete? And of course, the answer is, that was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And I need to redefine what feels good and is healthy at this stage in my life. And I look at, I don't even know, like, I mean, of course I'm an athlete. I do all sorts of things, I'm not training for anything in particular at this moment. And I look at my body and my physical activity and my sport as one aspect of who I am, but not who I am.
We have, so is it, because as an elite athlete, your identity is, like, for me, it was definitely like singular because it has to be at that level of competing. It's so singular. And now you have an embracing so many, projects, never mind, coming into all these other identities. So that's fascinating. So who am I as athlete? Do you so as you get to know your body, do you find that you're continuously shifting that, or is it just a releasing of it into the being that you are?
Well, so I think there is a shifting. I mean, I found it very helpful to be quite intentional about my dreams and my goals. And like, for every stage, I actually, like, right behind me have my dreams and goals book, which I'm very frequently writing in and trying to articulate and focus on what are they now? What are they this year? What are they? And because I'm such a physical human being, and I've been physical my entire life, it's so easy to get sucked into that physicality being the dominant energy in my life. And I no longer want that for right now, because I'm much more deeply into my spirituality and into the difference we're making with our unsinkable platform around wellness and mental health, particularly in youth during COVID. It's been so necessary. So, there's almost this default that I can spend more and more hours. Oh, maybe I'll go downhill skiing today. I'm in Whistler right now. I'll cross country ski this afternoon, and I got to stretch and I got to do yoga, and suddenly that's 5 hours of my day, right? Yeah. And although I thoroughly enjoy being athletic, I have chosen not to make it the most dominant energy in my life at this particular stage. Now, I know a lot of your listeners are in a different place. I mean, you've got to remember, Tennille, that I had that opportunity for 13 years to represent Canada and to really take all of my goals and ambitions athletically to the very end, right? And so I don't have any unfinished business. I have nothing that I'm trying to prove to myself or other people. And so it kind of makes sense that I want to focus on other things right now.
Yeah, no, I hear that. Can you talk a little bit about how it is, one of the themes within your book, and what's really important also in Unsinkable, is understanding how do we relate to our bodies and body image. And I know that for women in perimenopause, many women gain weight and really struggle with this. Yeah. And as it's almost like there's a fight with our bodies. And what would you have to say to that end? And how can we reframe that story so it's not a fight? Or what would you say?
Yeah, well, I remember that time. So for me, perimenopause started without me having any idea what was going on. And for me, the shifts were in mood more than anything. Definitely weight gain. It happens so slowly that you don't even really and I don't weigh myself regularly. So you don't even really notice it. And then all of a sudden you're like, I'm fat, and it's, and then I think I declared war on my body. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to go on an extreme diet. I'm going to, and I had so much anger and frustration with my body. And I think I just reached a place of really like, I first of all educated myself about why women gain weight during menopause. And I started to kind of look around more objectively at women. Like I just remember this, looking at like actresses in their 20s and then actresses in their 50s, and like really noticing the difference between their bodies and going, this is obviously a very natural thing that happens to us as women. And I don't know, if science has completely proven why it is. I mean, it has something to do with the dropping of the estrogen, and then and estrogen being stored in middle central body weight. And there's all sorts of reasons. And let's face it, by this time in life too, we have access to better food, and we're usually less neurotic. And being neurotic really makes you burns a lot of energy. But I think for me, I decided that I was going to choose to be happy, and part of that for me was stopping the criticism and the body hatred, because it was just, it wasn't going to change by, not having a glass of wine at night, like I realized that the degree of change that I actually had the power to change was very small. Yeah. And the second thing that I realized is that this wasn't just about weight gain for me. It was about aging. It was about coming into a different stage of life, and at some level coming in kicking and screaming, saying, no, but I want to be the same. But then you also sort of think about it, and I would think about how much my body had changed between 12 and 22. And then I think about how much my body had changed between 22 and 32. There were a couple babies in there. Yeah. And 32 and 4, and that gave me sort of some perspective too. Well, my body has never been the same. It's always changing. It's just amplified right now. And I'm feeling the sadness and frustration of coming into a different way of looking, and even capability, but it's always been there. And I think that much of why we as women feel it so much at our age is that there's so little celebration of older women. I'm starting to see it now more and more. I saw Helen Mirren the other day in like a big shoot up, and she was like this absolutely sexy, tough 60-year-old woman. And I was like, go, Yeah. But up until now, there's been very little of that. And I think the other thing that we do is we are constantly holding ourselves up to our old standards. So, I was always a size 8. Well, good for you, but now you've had multiple kids or not. You've gone through menopause, and your body is going to change. And in order for it not to, requires so much effort. And I was not willing to put so much effort into controlling this tiny little sliver that would actually negatively affect my life, that kind of exhibition of control. So, now going into my later 50s, I think I'm quite at peace with who I am. I mean, I still have my moments. I was shopping the other day at Lululemon, and my legs are all scaly and dry because it's the middle of winter, and those mirrors are like super close, and I'm like, But generally, I really love the way I look, and I really see the gifts in aging. I mean, it's a privilege to be entering this stage of life, and I think the fact that so many things begin to happen to friends and family, you become also more appreciative of the finiteness of life, and that the time that you're being given is really a gift, and the time when we're healthy and vibrant and strong. And I think I'm kind of running on. I'm sure you have another question, but I think strength, I do want to touch on that a little bit, because it's so important as women to stay strong into our 50s and 60s and to lift weights. I can't emphasize enough how important that is for our spine health and for our bone health. And so many women have, my age, have shied away from weights because they think, weights make you bulky. Well, I really would challenge your listeners to try to gain 5 pounds of muscle and see how easy it is. It's actually really hard.
I love that. Try. The challenge is out there. Silken has challenged us. Let's see how we do on that. No, but it's absolutely true. And it's a ringing theme that is going, sometimes I think I live in a bubble because everybody seems in my little world to be talking about getting into the weight room or understanding, getting into your living room and doing squats and which squats are appropriate. And do you need to do 15 to 20 or do you need to do 4 to 6? And, we don't have any weights anymore. It's hard to get weights because of COVID. Everybody wants the weights. But I do know that there's a lot of women that haven't got this message. And I appreciate that you talk about that and talk about how we can get into strength training and find a whole other sense of ourselves. And a lot of the listeners will be coming from endurance backgrounds. Yeah. And, either from triathlon or from cycling, and rock climbing is becoming a thing. I'm meeting rock climbers all over the place. It's absolutely brilliant. But how do we keep doing those sports that we love so much and shift our idea behind it? And that would be.
Well, and I know that the majority of your listeners, are already quite active and often, are actually high performance athletes in their 50s and 40s. And so, they have goals, they train, all these things. It is easy to be training and not be healthy. So, it's easy to be training for an Ironman and not be healthy. And I like to look at the big picture of my health as I move into these next decades. I want to manage the amount of inflammation that my body is in my body. I don't want to be constantly inflaming my body and filling it with free radicals because I don't want to get cancer and I don't want to break down my joints and these things. So I think about these things in a way that, I never thought. So the importance of training smart and taking rest and listening to your body, it becomes even more important as we're aging. And I think also just the celebration of where we're at. I mean, we're not going out to win Olympic medals like we might have been in our early teens or 20s, so we're at a different stage. And I always ask myself, why do I want to do this? And a lot of time it's social. I want to have fun. I want to be out there on my mountain bike with my friends doing ridiculous things. I want to keep challenging myself physically, trying some different sports, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So on that, I love that idea of challenging to try to do different things. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because, while a lot of the people coming on and engage looking at these interviews might be athletes, some of them might not be, and might be like, I just have an inner athlete. They might be saying that I just have an inner athlete that wants to come out, but I'm nervous. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. And again, like, as I keep on centering us on, here we are in this life stage in perimenopause. Our hormones are all over the place, and yet we still have these goals. Yet we still have journals that are beside you and writing, what do I want? And it might be around athletics, but it's on a holistic approach. So how do you tell me about some of the things that you are trying that is, stretching you a little bit and thinking about how am I being athlete?
Yeah, it's critical to set goals at any stage in life. I mean, I think if you stop setting goals and having dreams, it really sort of signals you are at the end of life, or you've stopped living. You could be 40 and if you don't have something that you're working towards and something that you're looking forward to, get it, because your quality of life is so much better with that. I stretch myself in all sorts of ways. Behind me is a sketch that I just have started. I've just started drawing classes for the first time in my life, and learning to draw and the technical aspects of art is just a totally different way of stretching myself. This summer, I started mountain biking. I think I had a mountain bike in the 80s, and like I rode it on some gravelly roads, but I never did anything. So, I was going over bridges, and like I was scaring the crap out of myself a few times, and I have been cautioned to be careful. I'm downhill skiing. I had to give up some things because of my leg injury, and that was really hard. My favorite sport, besides rowing, is skate skiing, and I had to give that up recently. It's just too painful, and I don't have any stability on my right leg. So that was tough, realizing, no, I really can't do this anymore. And and it's just not worth the pain, the pain pleasure thing wasn't working for me. So I got a pair of classic skates, and even the classic skates, I was struggling. So then I got a leg brace, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to tootle along on my cross country skis, and I'm going to find a way to enjoy this, even though it's very different than what I've done before. I mean, my biggest goals right now really are around our Unsinkable platform. We had 5 million connections last year through our different media channels. It's been such a fabulous learning curve. And you talked in the beginning about this idea of together, right? And I think as a single scholar, it's taken me a long time in my life to really understand what it means to build a team and to be part of a team. I don't think I was a very good team player before, probably my 50s. And I'm really beginning to understand how to build a winning team, and how to build a team that's its foundation is trust and vulnerability. And because, if we can't, as our leadership team, build that, then we can't hold all of these other people's stories and, perspectives with the kind of respect that we really need to in what we're doing.
Wow. And it has, really, and you are, and like every person brings it, that they have to come in and trust themselves and trust their bodies and be in that celebration of their bodies and keep stretching. And then it will just amplify. And that's what you see in Unsinkable among your team. And then the stories, I'm really excited because some of the other speakers that we have are from the stories that I read on Unsinkable. And just to put I really encourage you to take a look and to be inspired by these, by what's on Unsinkable.
Yeah, and I think you're,
Yeah, you're still there.
Yeah, sorry, can you still see me?
Yeah.
Okay, I was having a little technical difficulty. I think you're really hitting on something important, and it's the concept of lifting one another up. And I do want to talk about that just for a second. I mean, it's certainly what we do at Unsinkable. That's a whole premise of our platform, is lift one another up, share our stories, share our information, and support one another. And I think as women, as perimenopausal women, menopausal women, postmenopausal women, it is so important. First of all, we've got to start sharing our stories of what our experience in menopause is. I went through 6 years thinking that I was losing my mind, and it turned out that I was actually losing my hormonal balance. And I just needed, and that whole time, nobody said it to me. My doctor didn't say it to me. My naturopath didn't say it. No medical professional said, oh, I think it's your hormones. It was myself educating myself, and then, getting the right help from there. So we need to start talking about it, but also, and you hear this so much with young people, but it's true for our age too. We have to stop comparing ourselves to something we see on the internet or the magazine. Like, it's all fake. The photographs are airbrushed, they're manipulated digitally. People who are in the public eye, have injections and plastic surgery and have parts of their bodies cut out. And it's, and maybe the top model when they were in the 20s is still an incredibly beautiful 50, but that was their business. Like they're actually genetically gifted to be like a top model, the way that I was genetically gifted to be a top rower. So I think that, really lifting one another up and celebrating our beauty, celebrating our femininity, celebrating our strength. I find at this time in life, my girlfriends need they need the compliments. They need to be told that they look great and their skin looks amazing, and like whatever it is, because it does. It just doesn't look like they're 20 anymore. And I think that whole idea of women at our age and older being more visible, running companies, being more visible on social media, in movies, all of these things will really help. But it begins in community with us actually thinking that somebody who's 62 years old is beautiful, and telling them and telling ourselves it. So we're really trying to, in a way, change our culture through changing our own behavior on a micro level, and that pertains to sport too. Why are we comparing ourselves to our 20-year-old selves? Why are we even comparing ourselves to our 30-year-old selves? Things have changed. Why can't we celebrate whatever goal we've set out for ourselves this year, whether it's a grand fondo, whether it's swimming from our cottage to the next cottage, like whatever that goal is, there should be just as much a sense of joy and adventure and celebration. It's not ridiculous, in our 50s and 60s and 70s to have goals. I mean, I met a guy who skis his age every year. He skis a number of runs that, and he's 92. So this year he's, gone down the hill 92 times. I think it's fabulous.
Yeah, it is fabulous. So have goals, celebrate, lift each other up. I think that's where we are going to wrap it up. And I do have 3 quick questions for you. Are you ready? Okay. One. Number 1, give us one moment of courage.
Writing my book. Terrifying. and publishing it and releasing it out in the world.
Yes, I hear you. I hear you in that. Tell us one thing that you are grateful for right now.
My health. Every day, every moment. Never, ever don't appreciate it. Never take it for granted.
Oh, amen. 3, what do you want to say to your younger self?
That it's going to be okay. That whatever crap you're going through right now, however you're feeling, whatever inner turmoil you're experiencing, I wish I could have come from my future and talked to my 14-year-old self and told her that your life isn't just going to be okay, it's going to be amazing.
I love that. I love that. Silken, thank you so much for joining us and sharing yourself and what you have to say about being in this stage as an athlete, as now inner athlete shifting. It's been awesome. So I appreciate it so very, very much.
Thanks, Tennille. My pleasure.
All right.